Welcome back to Business Undercurrent. Today we're diving into a chilling new reality emerging in the Middle East. For a moment, let's forget about oil, because the real lifeblood of the Gulf is water, and it's now under direct threat. In March 2026, a disturbing shift in modern warfare became impossible to ignore: the deliberate targeting of desalination plants. Iranian strategists realized something terrifyingly simple. You don't need to defeat an army if you can simply turn off the tap. Consider this. The Gulf region supplies a staggering 40% of the world's desalinated water, sustaining over 100 million people. And here's the critical vulnerability. 90% of that water comes from just 56 highly concentrated, easily targetable plants. It's a classic example of asymmetric warfare, where cheap drones can threaten multi-billion-dollar lifelines. The math is brutal, and the implications are global. So what does this weaponization of water mean for the global economy? From this new front line, we now move to the economic chokehold this strategy creates. Why target water? It's not just about inducing thirst. It's a sophisticated tool for economic leverage and coercion without needing a direct military confrontation. Iran's strategy here is coldly calculated. For instance, countries like Qatar depend on hydrocarbon exports for 83% of their government revenues, while nations like Kuwait and Bahrain rely on desalination for up to 95% of their drinking water. When you attack the water supply, you attack the fundamental social contract between these governments and their populations. The potential economic fallout is immense, with Goldman Sachs estimating that Qatar and Kuwait could see their GDP drop by 14%. Capital Economics broadens that forecast, suggesting a potential regional GDP decline of 10 to 15%. Meanwhile, the ripple effects are already being felt in global markets, with Brent crude surging 46% since the conflict began. This is the very architecture of modern economic warfare, and desalination plants are now a key chess piece. But this isn't an act of desperation. It's a deliberate doctrine. This isn't desperation, this is doctrine. Iranian military thinkers call it Decentralized Mosaic Defense, a strategy built on a single, uncomfortable truth. Iran cannot match the conventional firepower of the US or Israel, so it doesn't even try to play the same game. Instead, it spreads the conflict across time, geography, and multiple layers of asymmetric pressure. Think about the economics of it. A Shahed drone might cost tens of thousands of dollars to build, but intercepting it can cost millions. Now imagine that cost imbalance at scale, month after month. The price of defending every critical asset becomes simply unsustainable. In this long game, time itself becomes a weapon, and attrition becomes the strategy. And the battlefield expands to include civilian infrastructure, not just water plants, but data centers and ports as well. This is a prime example of the forces shaping global geopolitics that are often missed by mainstream analysis. So what does this new form of conflict mean for our collective future? So where does this new reality leave us? We are clearly entering an era where civilian infrastructure is the front line of global conflict. The Geneva Conventions explicitly forbid attacking objects that are indispensable to human survival, and water installations are at the top of that list. But enforcement is another story entirely. In a world where major powers can initiate wars without UN Security Council approval, international law is increasingly becoming a framework without a sheriff. The Gulf states have already poured over $53 billion into their desalination infrastructure since 2006, with Saudi Arabia planning to invest $80 billion more. But now, every dollar spent building these vital facilities must be matched by dollars spent defending them. A U.S. intelligence assessment grimly concluded that a coordinated strike could cause these countries to lose the majority of their drinking water within days. And this regional threat exists within a looming global crisis. By 2030, the world faces a projected 40% shortfall in fresh water. In this context, desalination isn't just a convenience. It is the very foundation of civilization in this region. The next great conflict may not be fought over borders or ideology, but over the simple, terrifying question of who controls the water. And that is the undercurrent that almost nobody is talking about.